Hello everyone, this is Jakob from David Systems, and I'm gonna show you today how to install these four things we see on the left: the BCS, the broadcast server, the BUS or bus, the broadcast utility server, and Digger Range and Turbo Player. So actually the essential things to run the broadcast system on your machine locally. It was not installed before on this machine, so let's dive right in. On the left here, I've been navigating to the software versions release folder from the last release, and I like to take the versions from there because it's all in there, and I make sure that these are compatible to each other. On the right side, you see my Digger system folder. I just take out of these folders, starting with the broadcast server, the three files that we need. This would be the exe, this DLL, and the restart2 exe, and we copy them to our Digger system folder. And then we need to tell our Digger system setup here that we installed a broadcast server. So we open the administrator, type in the password, and go to local settings because we want to do a local broadcast system installation. And there we need a new folder, new subkey. The name of the subkey is broadcast server. So let's type in broadcast server. And then we see it here. And this needs a parameter that's just named installed, and its value is 1. So as soon as we do that, we should be able to run the BCS. So let's try it, double click. Here we go. So we already have the broadcast server installed. That's great. So we continue with the bus that we have here. Just do the same thing. In this case, we just need the executable here and copy it to our Digger system folder. Here we go. And then we can already open it. It wants a login from us. So in my case, I'm just going to use the admin login. And then it opens its window. What's hidden at first is here with this line, as you can see, the log output. So this can be very useful. So we open this, and just to have later when we run tasks, or here even at the startup, some further information about what's going on. Okay, there's 3 basic tasks, I would say basic tasks, that you need to run a program on your machine or in any environment. You should have 3 basic tasks. That's for the first task, the file check. So I'm just gonna name it my credentials, JLI BCS. So that's gonna be my broadcast server name. And then I add FC for file check. And then my task type is gonna be the file check tasks. And I want to add this to the local Digger system registry. Because I don't want to run these tasks in the global Digger system registry. And I click OK. So it opens the file check task that was created here and takes me directly to the properties of it. Bigger settings dialog here, and we need to add some information, a lot of information actually, but I just click OK for now. And add another task. This is the second important task that we need. Its name is called copy convert. And I just do the same thing. I give it the name of my broadcast server, which is going to be JLI BCS, and then add where we at CC for copy convert. Click OK again. This is actually something where you don't need to change anything, so this is already fine as the task properties, and you can just click OK. And as a third task, we need the delete task. And same naming as before. I'll just add del for delete and click OK. And also here we need some information to be added, but we don't do this right now, and just click OK. Okay, so far so good. I will just leave it like that for bus right now and take you to the Diga System Administrator again, just to show you that when I refresh or actualize the registry here, that also we have a new subkey called bus now. And in this bus, we created tasks, and it has these IDs of that we also see in the GUI of bus 1, 2, 3. And this is what's stored in here is the configuration of our tasks. So if I just go to the name, for example, task with ID 1 has the name of our file check task that we just created. So it's not recommended to change anything in here if you're not sure what you're doing. Just use the GUI, but to tell you that it's possible, for example, if you do a bug report on a specific bus task, you could export this configuration and our support team can import it again and check with your settings what's wrong with this task. And maybe they can reproduce the bug, which would be great, of course. Okay, so far so good. Then let's go to our release folder again and continue with the Diga range. What we need here is the Diga content tab host DLL and Diga range executable. We just, as the other modules, copy that to our Diga system folder, and we can open Diga range. Aha. It tells us in the beginning that no server has been defined. So the tasks I created are also created with my name for a server that I did not define yet. So that's also why I didn't start on the configuration or to change on the settings for these tasks right here, because I don't have a server that I can configure it for. That's also what's telling me Diga range on the startup. I know that I did not create a server yet, so I click OK. It will continue its startup just to let me know that it couldn't find any server yet. So what will happen with a new Diga system installation is that you're usually logged in on the bottom left, you can see it here, with a user, with a default Diga system user. So this user doesn't have the rights to configure a new broadcast server. So we'll log in as the administrator. And then we can go to Program and Server Properties. This list is empty now because we don't have any broadcast server defined, as I said before. And that's what we're going to do now. So we click New, and I want to do this local again because I don't want to add a global broadcast server. And I give it the name that I already had in mind. So what was it? JLI BCS. Then we need to give it the IP address. So this could be, in our case, since we're doing it locally, local host. So I add 127.0.0.1. And the default port is 10,000. So we just use these settings. Timeout value would be how long the system tries to connect to this server. until it gives you a timeout. Can be helpful if you don't want to wait forever, or if you're troubleshooting something. I'm just going to use I for infinite. And I leave these settings like that. So I will specify media directories now, and when I add something to a schedule here in DigaRange later, I want these files to be copied to the media directories. So all is at the place that I specified, and I can find the files that I used in my schedule. I'm not gonna use these two options, and I'll just continue with the media directories. So I click on read because it has to be read at first. Then you also need the admin here. And then again, we see this error message. No media directory has been defined for the pools. You must expect serious problems. Please inform your administrator. So, okay, don't freak out now. It's all good. We didn't specify any media directory, so just click OK. And then we actually want to specify media directories, so we click Edit. Okay, there's one media directory media directories for pools. I'm going to show you later where you can find pools in DigaRange. I'm just going to create this here on the local drive. So local disk, let's open this. Go to, actually I'm going to go to the Diga system folder and add this in the Diga system folder. So don't want to add this directly to the Diga system folder, but I want to create a folder that is called BCS media. And in this BCS media folder, I want to create a subfolder pools. Pools. Because now I can use this directory and also add a subfolder in BCS media for global jingles. Global jingles is going to be where you can store jingles that are used for the whole broadcast server. So not only for a specific program that's running on that broadcast server, but for all the programs that are run on this broadcast server. So not only program specific, but for any program that's running on this server. Then, so far so good, let's click OK. It tells me that these media directories do not exist and asks me if it should create them, and I click yes, please create them. Don't worry about the full text index server, just leave it like that for now. Click OK. Okay, looks good. I created a local broadcast server with this name, and I will click OK. So we can see now that DigaRange kind of does a refresh, just like it does when you log in with a different user. And there we see the broadcast server was created. That's awesome. And I try if I can connect to it even. Oh yeah, that's cool. It connects to it. And if we have a look at the broadcast server here, we can even see that connection. So it tells me that I connected with the scheduler, or with a scheduler. In this case, I connected with the DigaRange scheduler. Makes sense. As the user administrator. My workstation name and some further information, time of login, and that's all good. So connection is established. Then what I told you we defined before was the media directories for the global jingles here. So you can see this is a sub node. I'm calling these things nodes, as we have a tree view here. The global jingles can be used. It's just a direct child of the broadcast server, so it can be used throughout the whole, for all services on this broadcast server. Okay, when I now right click on the server, I can go to manage, and add my program or service. It's sometimes called service, and sometimes, here, you can even see it here on the top. It says service. Sometimes people also say program, so don't get confused. I'm gonna create a new service. So I click on new and name it, for example, news channel. So I name it news channel. This is gonna be another name. Calculation of total duration means what's taken as a total duration when I have here information about the show, total duration here about the show, or total duration about the marked elements. I want to use only audio duration. If you have text also in your schedule and this text has some length, well, as soon as you have some text, it usually has some text according to the speaker time that's configured. You can display the total duration as the sum of audio and text, but I don't want to do that. I want to do only audio duration. And then we come to the jingles. I could now define that for this service, I always want to use service-specific jingles. So if I want to create a jingle node that has jingles inside that are only meant to be used for my news channel service here, then I could use this service-specific jingles. If news channels can just use the global jingles, I could define global jingles. So I'm going to use service-specific jingles. I'm not going to do anything here for now. And then I will just create another media directory, which is very important. Because what I did now is what I did when we created the server, I added a media directory for the pools and for the jingles, but not for this specific service. So that's what we need now. So I click on new, and it takes me to the Manage Media Directory dialog. And let's read this hints actually. There must be at least one directory on a server which is accessible from all clients. Additional mirror directories can be created for safety reasons. They can either be located on additional servers or on-air computers which are used for playout. So what does it mean? I can create a server directory on some server that I am connected to via network, and copy the media directories that I use in my schedule to this directory, and also access them from this directory. So I could create a server directory, but what if the network breaks down or the cable on my machine is broken? Then I should probably have the files also on my local computer here. For this reason, I can also specify an on-the-air directory on my local machine here. So when the network breaks down or there's any issues with the network, I can still play out my show from the local machine. So I just define a local directory, on-air directory on this. So I go this path again, and I want to put it in the Diga system folder also. And this is, well, not really gonna be the BCS media. Well, kind of. BCS media, we stored or we created directories for the pools and the jingles. And as it's kind of the parent of the service that we are creating now, I could put this in here. And I just then create a new subfolder that is called, like my service is called. So I add news channel here with an underscore here. And then I name it on air. Okay, click OK. And we can see here with this icon that this is an on-air media directory that we created. And I see if I can save this service like this. Save. It tells me that the on-air folder is not there. And actually also the news channel is not there. And if it should create it, I click yes. And then, and this is a really important question, don't just click it away. Or if you do, just click yes. Do you also want to create write objects for the new service? Now, if you don't always use the administrator, which you shouldn't, you definitely want to create write objects, because in a later step, you have to give your user the rights to manage the service, or to maybe just read the service, or to write on the service, do some changes, and then you need the right to do this. So let's click yes. We can close this dialog because our news channel here on the left, we can see it was created. So let's click close. Okay. We see that we don't see anything here, so maybe let's just disconnect and reconnect again. Here we go. Our news channel showed up. Now, to show you what happened regarding the rights object, I go back to the Digger System Administrator. So I go to the objects, and because it makes sense, rights objects, and then I go to show plan. So what was created? For once, right for the general pools. So it's about, can I do something with the general pools, or do I not have the right to do it? And then also for the news channel service itself. And then in more detail, I would say, you can have rights for specific types of elements that you use, like audio elements, card elements, and so on. Then we go down to user, because now I want to give this user the rights to handle or to do changes on the news channel. So I go to rights, show plan, and here we can see not only objects that we saw before, but also what rights I can give the user regarding these objects. So if you hold down the Shift key and click on News Channel, you can give it the rights for News Channel throughout the whole row. Yeah, you can do the same on the column. Hold down Shift, click, and give it the rights for the whole column. Okay, what did I'll put this back, just give these. What did I give the user for rights? Which rights did I give to him now? For once, it can read the news channel, it can write, it can manage. This is important because then I can create new shows on this channel, which I want to do. Can write groups, write stories, set elements to ready, set a show to approved, write to a protected show, and so on and so on. If I create elements on the news channel that have these classes like audio and card, command, commercial, and all of that, I want to be able to change them too. So actually, I'm going to give the user all the read rights, all the write rights, and all the manage rights for now. Well, if you run into trouble that Digger Range at some point gives you an error message about that you're not allowed to do the task that you want to do, then you can check on the rights if you have the right to do it. Maybe you just don't have the right to do it. This is good so far. And then I will change from the admin user to the user, where the password is also user, just to make sure that my rights changes worked. So I go in, and can see I can connect, and I also see the news channel. What went away is the things like global jingles and personal pool, maybe, because these rights have to be added manually. If you want them back for your user without logging in as an administrator, you have to add something like this for the general pools, because we see general pools now. And you could do like JLI_BCS / global jingles, for example. But for the specific name, you better look at documentation PDFs. Okay, so let's create a new show. So I right click on today and go to manage, because I want to add a new show. So I click on new and give it the name BCS News, for example. I don't want to provide information, but I want to give it a start time. So when should the show start? I say it should start at 5 p.m. and end at an hour later at 6 p.m. So I can just stop here. The zeros will be added automatically if I now hit tab. Yeah, you can see that it added the zeros automatically and it gave me a duration of 1 hour because, of course, my show is going to be 1 hour then. I could also here, if I had jingles already defined, and I'm talking about service-specific jingles now because I, in a former step, decided to use service-specific jingles. And if I had created some of them here in the jingle node, I could select them here, but I didn't do that yet. I don't want to worry about anything else in this dialog and just click save. So I created a new show, BCS News, that shows up now here in today. And I can drag and drop it into this upper window here. And when I drop it, I can see the list does not contain any elements. Okay, I have created a show, but it's empty. No elements are inside. I'm gonna try to fill it by opening the database manager and look for some elements. So we have some here. And I'm gonna use the Berlin Briefing raw here. And I can drag and drop it to DigaRange. The symbol up here is for DigaRange. And if I drop it here, it will take it to the clipboard of DigaRange. So we can see here, it opened the clipboard automatically and put my element in here. And then I could just drag and drop it again to my show rundown. So I have one element inside. So we have one element inside. I could have also just, if I take the following element, I can just directly, if I go to DigaRange, drop it to my schedule. That's also possible. Okay, so we have set up a connection to our broadcast server. We created a service or program, and we created a show in our newly created service. So far, so good. Now, let's install the Turbo Player as a last step. I want to go to the Turbo Player. Here, what we need is the Turbo Player full executable and also the Turbo Player IO and the Turbo Player wrapper DLL. There are specific flavors of Turbo Player that don't have all the functionality like card, light, or news, but we want all the functionality and we take the full. So I copy it to the Diga system folder and let's see what happens if I open it. First step, it asks me for a Diga system user. Diga system login failed. So it wants a username and a password. I click OK. And I could only now provide the username and password, but as I already know which broadcast server I want to connect to, I will select it here from the dropdown. And I also already know the program that I want to be playing out. So see that it here is called program, which is our DigaRange service, just a different word. But it's not, I cannot find it in the dropdown yet here. So I type it in manually. Oops. But you have to make sure that you don't have a typo in here. Otherwise, this will fail. So I'll double check. Okay, it's called News Channel. And let's click OK. It asks me if I want to save or apply these settings that I just entered. And yes, of course, I want to do it. Oh, and this is, of course, one thing that I forgot again, which is good that there was no installation before and I don't have a script. So if this information shows up, actually the first reason is wallet here. Multiplayer is not running because we didn't do any multiplayer installation yet. So TurboPlayer needs a multiplayer installation. Multiplayer is the audio engine for actually playing out the elements, the files that are in your schedule. So I click OK, and TurboPlayer will close again since it cannot run without a multiplayer. And then we have to find a multiplayer. You can find it in the latest version always in software versions. Type in multiplayer version 5. And these are demos. So multiplayer is always a demo and only running until, for example, here, the 31st of May. So I will copy this zip to the desktop of this PC, and then I'll just extract the files. Here we go. Then I want to run the setup of multiplayer. Yes. So I'm gonna go through the steps of the setup. Just click continue. I want to run multiplayer, install multiplayer 5.7 on the system. Yes. It installs the multiplayer in program files /multiplayer v5. That's fine for me. I click next. I just leave these at the default settings and click next. So it will create 8 audio channels for me. I specified this here. Number of audio channels 8. With a frequency of 48,000 Hertz, which is also fine. Click next. I want stereo channels, next. And then we come to the audio devices to be used, which is always kind of tricky. If you change your audio device, multiplayer might not run because it saves the configuration that you do during the setup. And maybe your device is gone now if you have a USB babyface audio interface and you remove it because you take it to another desk and then try to run multiplayer, you might run into trouble. So you have to adjust the settings here again. So what I want to use on this machine is the wave out. We have a Behringer interface here. So I'm going to use the line out 1.2 wave out. And you can just double click and double click for all these channels. That's fine for my local system here. Click next and just leave this at its default turbo pipe, which is fine and needed for TurboPlayer, and click next. We could enter a license here, but we don't have one. We just use the demo version and update the demo version once it's invalid, because we receive here at David, we always receive a working demo version, and we just update it and we're fine again. You don't have to do the installation again, the setup. If you just exchange the executable multiplayer when you receive a new demo version. So let's go to the folder where it was installed. It was C program files multiplayer v5. And it's looking good. So as I said, if this is not a valid demo version anymore, so if it's expired, just replace the executable. That should be enough. And you can run multiplayer again. So once we finish this setup, click OK. Let's run it. Double click. And it even tells us when it will expire. Click OK. And on the bottom right in the taskbar, you should see that we have multiplayer running here. And then we should be able to open the TurboPlayer, the thing we tried before installing multiplayer, and now it's opening, which is good. So this is the default look of Turbo Player when you start it for the first time. It's opened in, I would say, edit mode. Yeah, the mode where you can resize and remove all frames here. I want to get out of this mode, and therefore I just click on the menu bar of Turbo Player. So then it takes me out of this mode. And because I provided all the information like a Diga system user, the administrator, and the password, and also a program that we can see here, news channel, and a show. Well, I didn't provide the show, but Turbo Player automatically looks for the next or the current show. So this is the show that I created. It's by default then selected by Turbo Player. And we can already see our elements that we scheduled in Diga range for it. So it's all looking good. Let's see if we can play out something. By hitting space, it should by default play out the next element. The next element is always the green element by default. And if I hit space, that's the default shortcut for playing the next element on the first channel. I should be able to play it out. So I do this.
Good morning.
That's fine.
This is Abby with your daily Berlin briefing for Thursday, July 12th, 2018.
By hitting space again, I can stop the element or the element that's running in the first player. And you can see that it is now gray because the element was sent. On the left here, you see the antenna symbol, which indicates that this element was on air and now is in a state sent. So this is the column represents the sent state. If you right click on it, you could see other states. You could mess with this now, setting it to something else, but you should only do that for test purposes. If you don't want to reschedule all this stuff again, set it back to planned, reload the show, and you can play it out again. Okay, so far so good. I think we did everything we had in mind. This window you can close. It's just the starting window. That's good for now, good for today. Should probably just play around with the system, create new shows, schedule some stuff. You can check out the manual to see what these modes do. What's it about these start types here? Yeah, check out different classes. Oh yeah, and one important thing I forgot. What's up with the tasks in BUS? Well, these tasks I created are the basic tasks for my broadcast server JLI_BCS to be working. So file check checks on the elements that are in a specific service because I can define them here. A file check task always needs a copy convert task, so it can tell the right copy convert that it should do something. So file check checks on the file state of the elements. So as we defined many media directories, file check checks that there are all the copies available in the media directories that we specified. So it needs to have access to all the media directories to be checking on them. And then you define here a copy convert task that does the job of copying or converting if that's not done. So file check says, hey, I miss a copy here, file check, copy convert task, please do this. Then I specify the server again, of course. I don't have it in the list now because I didn't restart BUS. So I'm gonna do this real quick because it's easier. Just click OK, close BUS. Yes, I really wanna close BUS. Go to the Diga system again and open BUS again. double click on the file check to go to the properties, and we can see it automatically added my server in here. It's the one I want to use. Log in as admin, provide the password, and scan on this server with these credentials for the service. And it only found one news channel. I want to be looking at that one. The default settings are fine for me right now. If you later work with WebDig Arrange, WebTurbo Player, make sure to generate waveform files. They are needed to show the waveform, well, which makes sense, in the web applications. If you're interested in any other of these options, make sure to check in the BCS tech manual for the file check tasks. Okay, I click OK. Copy convert, as I said before, doesn't need any settings, any further settings here. That's fine like that. And then we have the delete task. So with all the copies that file check is checking for and copy convert is copying, the disk will run full. If you never delete anything, your disk will run full, and you don't want to do that, so you can schedule a delete task. Important is again the user and the password and the service. Then by default it would run at midnight, so it will only run once. That's okay for the delete task to only run once a day. And I will leave it like that. If you do specific tests with the delete task, you can of course set a time in like 5 minutes if you want to do a test in 5 minutes. I will just leave it like that. Usually on my local system, my disk doesn't run full. If it should, with data from the BCS, I would manually run the delete task. So to be honest, in a local setup, it's not that important as the other two tasks. But if you want to clean up your BCS data media files, you can run it manually. If you do that and you actually want the task to do something, make sure you go out of the protocol only mode. Otherwise, it will just show you in the log file what it would do if you were not in protocol only mode. So it's kind of a test mode. And then I will live with the default settings because they are fine for me right now. And I click OK. What we can see now in the background is the file state of my elements that I scheduled in my first show. It's now a question mark. So this means if we double click on the element and go to more, we can check on the metadata of this element. And if we look for file state right here, we can see that it's set to existing. So yes, it could find the one and only copy of this element right now, but it's not having the copies in the media directories that we specified, which makes sense because we never run a copy convert task or file check task before. So we want to have the file state usually on mirrored, which means that all the copies that we request are done and are available. So when I start the bus here, and I'll just mark with a shift all these three tasks and click on activate, we can see that they are starting. And if we watch the file state here, it should go to first the state accessible and then the state mirrored. Also on the bottom here, we can see that it changed to mirrored. That's the state we want to have. So we have the copies in the media directories that we specified for these elements, and all is good. So that's for the first setup. You have a local BCS system now running. Play around with it. If you have any questions, just come and see me at my desk or ask some BCS guru, I would say. Somebody from Team Gauss, for example, and they'll help you out. So have fun.